Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. I'm so glad you've joined us this morning. We have a very busy show in store for you. Let's get right to it. We have some viewer comments. Yesterday, a viewer wrote in, and I've got to say this is interesting because we've had a few examples where people aren't opposed to the assisted suicide bill that Governor Hochul signed into law. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on in the broadcast. But this viewer writes, and I hope you don't mind to the viewer, I have to paraphrase it a little bit. It's long, but I appreciate it. But, well, although the governor, this is what the viewer says, is a complete idiot and should not be in office, and although the government has no right into our health nor our personal lives, signing into law about assisted suicide is the best thing she's ever done. People may not agree, but speaking from my own life, she says, I was around when Dr. Kevorkian helped many people end their horrible lives of suffering, and it was a good thing. As a disabled woman of 32 and 3/4 years now, where I was very young, only 32 years old and a major athlete, injuries from car accidents that I didn't cause were not my fault. And no, I didn't sue the drivers in a major rollover in 2001, making my back injuries more severe. I can tell you, living in pain on a daily basis as a true Christian, not this false Christianity that's been around worse than ever before, that nobody should have the right to tell you what we want in our lives. I know for a fact if I had become a paraplegic, I would have killed myself a long time ago as a young, vibrant, athletic-bodied woman. My ex and I tried to figure a way for him to kill me without being caught. She's a quadriplegic? Excuse me. I try to paraphrase, I'm not the best at it. We also looked at going to other states way back in the 90s where Dr. Kevorkian could help me kill myself. So being disabled, and by the way, I'm very sorry to hear your story, but I thank you for sending it in. So being disabled, whether by injuries or a horrible illness where doctors and big pharma make you even sicker, including with chemotherapy and radiation, it's our right to want to die. Although Jesus Christ suffered horribly for our sins, I and we that are tired of suffering should have the right to die by assisted suicide. And she goes on to say that she believes, after much study, that suicide is not a sin, that God does not, or that God, real biblical Hebrew names, Yahweh, does not forgive as he does forgive, and knows our hearts and suffering. There's only one unpardonable sin, and that is when Satan is cast down as the one and only true Antichrist. And that sin, especially if you are an elect, is not allowing the Holy Spirit to speak through you. That is the only unpardonable sin, based on God's words and nobody's business. And since I've studied Scripture chapter by chapter, verse by verse, including bringing thousands of words back to Hebrew and Greek, the original languages of the manuscripts, along with actual real teaching pastors that know how to read and speak Hebrew and Greek that I studied with as well for almost 20 years now. If I know anybody that wants to truly die and commit suicide, we find our way out of pain and suffering, and assisted suicide is way better than most ways out. And God forgives all believers of God himself and accepting Jesus Christ as our Savior. You can also repent prior to killing yourself, and God does forgive you, period. So the government has no right whatsoever in our personal lives in wanting to assist suicide, including extremely depressed people that have tried to ask God for help, decided not to do horrible with the side effects of drugs God never wanted created in the first place. If they want to die, it's our choice, not anybody but the person who wants to die. So this, although not the government's business, making a law here in New York in favor of assisted suicide is absolutely 150% a good thing. So we've had, thank you for that. And again, sorry for the pain and suffering that you've experienced. But we've had a few reactions like that since this was signed law. We've had, of course, the complete opposite reaction as well. And it's good to have the conversation. So please keep those comments coming in on that or any other topic this morning. Mark writes in, good morning, Frank. Well, good morning, Mark. This will put the Dems in a tizzy. You're going to steal all my breaking news stories this morning, Mark. The Kennedy Center board votes to rename it the Trump Kennedy Center. And President Trump signs executive order reclassifying marijuana as a Class 3 drug. And finally, and this is where we're going to begin the program, the Biff. Greg Biffle and his family have passed away. The Biff is now doing laps in heaven. What a tragic story. Former NASCAR driver Greg Biffle and his immediate family members died in a plane crash in Oradell County. Biffle was one of 7 people killed when a small plane crashed at Statesville Regional Airport at around 10:15 a.m. on Thursday. The New York Post, I believe it is, or maybe People, can't remember who it was quoted as. Greg Biffle's wife sent a very, disturbing text message to her mother saying, "We're not doing okay," something to that extent. It's not immediately clear who else was killed in the crash, but the Highway Patrol said Biffle's immediate family members were believed to be on board and also killed. Biffle was married to Christina Grazu and had 2 children, a 5-year-old son and a 14-year-old daughter. Biffle shared his 14-year-old daughter with his ex-wife, Nicole Lunders. It's believed Biffle, Grosu, and that his 2 children were killed. It wasn't immediately known who else, as I said, was on board at the time. What a sad, sad story. You may have seen that breaking yesterday, and I remember at the time, a lot of Greg Biffle fans. He competed in 842 races across the sport's top 3 series from 1998 to 2022, including 515 Cup Series events. Across those 515 Cup starts, Biffle collected 19 wins and 175 top 10s. He was best known for driving Roush Fenway Racing's number 16 Ford. So our thoughts and prayers go out to all those affected by that tragedy. Now we have, and there's no way to segue from these stories, we are going to talk about the Brown University shooter. What we are learning, they finally, for lack of a better term, cracked the case. Before we go to that, just changing the mood here for a moment. I know we have a lot of Bills fans out there, including Climate Fact Friday Bob, who I know is a big Bills fan, always wishing us a go Bills. While the Buffalo Bills may not be at Highmark Stadium this week, Bills Mafia can recreate the atmosphere of a tailgate right in their own home. The Bills posted a 10-hour-long Bills Holiday Yule log to the team's YouTube page. The video features the crackling sounds of a fireplace right outside of Highmark. The Bills will be heading to Cleveland on Sunday to take on the Browns as their final game against the AFC North in the 2025 regular season. So as you're getting ready, I know many of you, like me, waiting to the very last minute, if you want to get into the Christmas mood, put on the Bills 10-hour-long Holiday Yule log. It's right in the stadium. It's as if you're tailgating, getting ready to go into the game, and getting into the Christmas spirit. Also, don't forget, this is just a reminder, the Powerball jackpot has continued to grow after no ticket was won. On Wednesday night's drawing, That means that the next drawing, which is tomorrow, will be $1.5 billion. The 5th largest in Powerball history, which is amazing. I thought it would be higher than breaking the top 5. $1.5 billion. It's the 7th largest among U.S. lottery jackpots. The jackpot is for a sole winner who chose to receive the winnings through an, etc. You don't need to know all the legalese. But if you opt out and take the annual payment and you take the cash option, it would be $572.1 million. Still not bad. But keep in mind, the prize is subject to taxes, which includes an automatic withholding tax of 24% levied against the winnings and another 13% in federal taxes when you file your 2025 return. You may want to get if you win, you may want to get an accountant to do those taxes. All right, so $1.5 billion. So if you hit it, don't forget about us, okay? So, we got some waves coming in. We got some messages coming in. We'll read those after the next break, As we said, they have identified the Brown University, and now we learn MIT shooting suspect. He was found dead in a storage unit. His name, Claudio Manuel Neves Valente. We're going to talk about that. We also have some just political updates, something I think you're going to find very interesting about the Democratic National Committee. Also, President Trump's address to the nation, which we talked about extensively yesterday. We have a couple of things on that. Some, obviously, backlash from those in the media. But I think you're going to find kind of the ignorance of some of the statements very telling. We'll talk about that as well. And New York State updates, quite a few of those on our horizon as well. So there we go. That's to kick off our broadcast this morning. You know what I found interesting? And there's just to throw this away real quick to get this out there to kind of start the conversation. There's been some release of Epstein documents and files and photos. Maybe you've seen them lately. Nothing really new. Nothing really a huge takeaway that I've seen so far. Well, surprisingly, CNN's reporting this. Frustration mounts among survivors of Jeffrey Epstein about the House Democrats' selective release of files and photos. I think the survivors may now realize that the Democrats were perhaps not doing this so much for the survivors, but as for political reasons. A number of Jeffrey Epstein survivors voiced their concern in a private meeting with female Democratic lawmakers earlier this week about the disclosure of Epstein-related documents and photos that have been kind of trickling out, sharing that the selective publication of materials was distressing. The video call with members of the Democratic Women's Caucus featured multiple Epstein survivors, some of their representatives, and a number of female House Democrats, some of whom told the survivors that they understood their distress and that they even shared their concerns. Not enough to stop it, not enough to try to make political hay out of it, but they understand their concern. Democratic Representative Melanie Stasberry, who also serves on the oversight panel, told the survivors in the meeting that she would relay their concerns back to the top Democrat on the committee, Representative Robert Garcia. She also said that she had already had some conversations with lawyers on the committee about how they were choosing which photos to release, and made clear that she herself was not happy about not getting much of a heads up before the committee's release. To me, and they're saying it could cause more harm and damage to the survivors, I think at the end of the day, what this proves is the Democrats have embraced this, again, because they want to make it a political issue. That's why they're releasing what they're releasing and when they're releasing. We saw that with the redacted name and the information that was already known, trying to attach it to Trump. Since last week, Democrats on the House Oversight Committee have released batches of photo that they've received from the Epstein estate. The photos have lacked context and mark a small portion of the 95,000 photos that committee members and staff are still sorting through. Democrats have redacted personally identifiable information about victims and survivors. The disclosures have prompted some Republicans to accuse Democrats of cherry-picking information to release for political reasons. And I like how they blame that on Republicans. That's clearly what it is, and that's clearly what the survivors are distressed about. Since the Epstein estate started providing information to the committee, Democrats have highlighted smaller amounts of material at a given time, while Republicans have taken a different approach and released larger swaths of information. The most recent disclosure came on Thursday when the House Oversight Panel Democrats released yet another batch of approximately 60 photos. I've got to say, I am shocked that CNN's reporting on it, but I'm glad they're doing so because it has become a political game for the left on this, cherry-picking, hand-selecting, and not keeping the survivors' best interest at heart. So I wanted to pass that along. All right. Let's take a short break. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking. We're just getting warmed up, covered a lot of issues already, so be a part of it. Text that number on the bottom of the screen at any time, and we'll be right back.
What better way to start or end every day than relaxing in your very own Hesselson's hot tub? Massage therapy, relaxation, stress reliever, pain management, soothing muscles, or just spending time with a loved one. Hot water therapy really does make every day better. Hesselson's has been a part of this great community for over 70 years, still being locally owned and operated. So make the drive to Hesselson's and start making your path to a better life today. And after 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
I'm Marianne Burt. I've lived here for 70 years, but I do fine right here in my house, and I want to be here as long as I can be. And I feel comfortable knowing that if something happened to me, someone would know because of the cameras that are installed in various spots in my home. That has been a wonderful gift to me to be able to have that security and that support from Full Circle America, and that's what it's all about.
When you're on, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Whether it's our stories, the warmth of our laugh, or our family's secret sauce, we all bring something different to the table. So make some space. The power of connection is waiting right outside your comfort zone. Learn how you can help strengthen your community at belongingbeginswithus.org/teamup.
You're watching Big Fox, WYDC TV, Elmira Corning. You're Big Fox, WYDC TV, Elmira Corning. You're Big Fox, WYDC.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Let's go to some viewer comments. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning, Steve. The amount of humanitarian aid, this is a really good point that I kind of omitted accidentally at the beginning of the program, that Biffle's family did, especially Greg Biffle, to help provide in North Carolina cannot be matched by any other. Hate to make it political, but him and his group did so much while the Biden administration refused to help where there was a Trump sign found in the yard. It was always a pleasure knowing Greg when he was a part of the Jack Roush racing team. It truly is a very sad time for a lot of us that did know him. I'm sure it is. It was a tragic event. When the news first broke yesterday, you hoped beyond hope. Well, you didn't know. And then when the information came out as even more heartbreaking. So I appreciate that. Another comment, excuse me. Isn't it amazing how somehow every year around Christmas time, the lottery jackpot seems to occur to be absolutely positively insane in amounts. If anybody believes they're not rigged to begin with, they don't live in reality. It's not hard to rig something where a ball supposedly drops down, but you'll actually see it, and there's a tube that the ball comes out of. All they have to do is run an algorithm to see what numbers aren't picked. Thank you very much, Steve. We appreciate that. All right, so authorities have identified the suspect in Saturday's mass shooting at Brown University, which left 2 students dead and 9 injured. They believe it's the same man who carried out the murder of a renowned nuclear scientist at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology days later. I did not realize, this is just my ignorance because I think there's been so much news, I did not realize that shooting of that nuclear scientist, I didn't realize it was a murder investigation. I saw the headlines. I did not realize. The man, Claudio Manuel Neves Valente, was found dead Thursday evening after law enforcement officers in tactical gear were seen outside a storage unit linked to him in Salem, New Hampshire. Neves Valente, 48 years old, was a Portuguese national and studied at Brown from the fall of 2000 to the spring of 2001 to study physics. But he went on a leave of absence and ultimately withdrew in 2003. A man with the same name was also terminated from a monitor position at the Instituto Superior Técnico in Portugal in 2000. School records show. Authorities said they believe he is the same person as the killer. That's also the same university attended by the renowned MIT nuclear physics professor Nuno Lareira, who suffered a fatal gunshot wound Monday at his home in Massachusetts. Rhode Island authorities said the investigation was being handled by Massachusetts authorities who would speak for themselves. Quote, this evening at approximately 9 p.m., federal agents breached a storage locker in Salem, New Hampshire in search of Claudio Neves Valente, a Portuguese national, we believe shot and killed 2 Brown University students and an MIT professor in Brookline, Massachusetts. Federal agents found Neves Valente dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The Brown shooting, well, we know all about the run-up to this. They're giving credit to basically a Good Samaritan, the kind of idea, if you see something, say something. Because for a while there was a lot of criticism, and rightfully so, that no information was coming out. We brought up the criticism of the Brown University president yesterday and trying to turn this into a political issue and talking about gun control. So this thing was handled in many instances very questionably. Now, according, this is interesting, to Israeli officials, They're reportedly investigating a possible Iranian connection to the murder of that senior MIT nuclear scientist. Now, I don't know. This could have been later news after this was discovered about the man who ultimately killed himself. But that was... Now, it was reported that that professor wasn't working on anything classified, as there's no classified work being performed on campus. But that's just what some Israeli officials are saying, that they're investigating a possible Iran link in the killing of the MIT scientist. But because of this, DHS Secretary Kristi Noem said Claudio Neves Valente, the suspect, entered the U.S. through the Diversity Lottery immigrant visa program during President Donald Trump's first term in 2017 and was granted a green card. The Brown University shooter entered the United States through the Diversity Lottery immigrant visa program in 2017 and was granted a green card. This heinous individual should never have been allowed in our country. In 2017, President Trump fought to end this program following the devastating New York City truck ramming by an ISIS terrorist who entered under the DV-1 program and murdered 8 people. At President Trump's direction, I am immediately directing USCIS to pause the DV-1 program to ensure no more Americans are harmed by this disastrous program. So there you go. Okay, we can talk more about that if you'd like. You guys are chatty this morning. A lot of waves, too. We have a couple of other updates I want to get to, and then we'll get to some breaking stories from Trump. I'll talk a little bit more about the address to the nation. As I said, a lot of New York State updates as well. We'll read your comments when we come back from break. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Nearly 500 kilos of cocaine has been seized in a bust.
Thousands lined the pier at Seneca Harbor. Race weekend brought thousands to Watkins Glen International.
Hundreds and Horseheads joined other cities around the country on Saturday for the No Kings protest.
You lather, rinse, moisturize, repeat, and repeat. But it never feels like enough. It's not your products. It's your water. Hard water leaves a mineral residue that clogs pores and dries out hair. Culligan water softeners remove damaging minerals, revitalizing brittle hair and dry skin. Upgrade your shower and skincare routine with Culligan, water you love.
We are the keepers of the wild, America's original and most invested conservationists. For more than 80 years, we've been committed to conserving wildlife and the natural landscapes that define our nation. From rugged alpine ridgelines to peaceful tall grass prairies, we've supported the conservation of more than 36 million acres of American wildlands. Our funding has led to cleaner water, fresher air, and improved wildlife habitat. From abundant fish and waterfowl populations to robust deer and elk herds, nothing is more important than maintaining wild spaces for adventurers to explore and wildlife to thrive. We are America's hunters and target shooters, stewards of the American outdoors.
You're watching Big Fox, WYDC TV, Elmira Corning. You're watching Big Fox, WYDC TV, Elmira Corning. You're Big Fox, WYDC.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Let's go to some viewer comments. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. Another tragic story on the Biffle family. I really don't follow NASCAR, but I know many do, and it becomes like a family. Just a very sad situation. Absolutely. It's heartbreaking, and as Steve had pointed out, he did so much in North Carolina and just did so much for the community, and it's such a tragic event. They're reporting that his wife, they must have known something was going bad because Greg Biffle's wife sent a message to her mother before the fatal plane crash saying, "We're in trouble." She texted me from the plane and she said, "We're in trouble," and that was it. She said, "We're so devastated, we're heartbroken." So yes, a very tragic story. Another comment from a different viewer. Mark writes in, "I saw this post on Facebook that Trump wants to make Christmas Eve a holiday and the day after Christmas a holiday. It was asking what we thought about it. Is this true or a real thing?" Well, they may be twisting what President Trump actually did, because Trump granted federal workers an unprecedented 5-day holiday break with 2 extra days off around Christmas. So maybe that's someone on Facebook trying to get attention from something that is happening. Federal employees affected by the order will be able to stay home on both December 24th and December 26th. For many, this effectively creates a 5-day holiday break, including Christmas Day and the weekend. All executive departments and agencies of the federal government shall be closed and their employees excused from duty on Wednesday, December 24th, 2025, and Friday, December 26th, 2025, the day before and the day following Christmas Day, respectively. This marks the first time in recent years that federal employees have received 2 extra days off around the holiday. While it is common for presidents to grant either the day before or the day after Christmas, granting both days is less frequent. Despite the additional time off for most employees, the executive order said agency heads retain the authority to determine if certain officials should remain open for reasons of national security, defense, or other urgent public need. The executive order specifies that these days are to be treated similarly to federal holidays for purposes of pay and leave regulations. So I think that's probably what they're referring to, Mark. And they're doing the poll so that you'll like it or comment, and then it gets that whatever page you were on gets them kind of higher up in the algorithm, if you will. Now, if you look last year, former President Joe Biden gave federal employees Christmas Eve off. So it's typical, but this is an extra kind of bonus day because of where the Christmas holiday falls. So that's, I'm thinking, what they were referring to. A comment from a different viewer. Well, he must have realized that there was trouble. This is about Greg Biffle. Well, he must have realized that's why he turned around almost after takeoff. That could be the case. I'm sure we'll learn more in the coming days. This is an update of a story that I nearly forgot about. But a Wisconsin judge now faces 5 years in prison after she was found guilty of helping a violent illegal migrant evade federal immigration agents attempting to serve him with a warrant during a court appearance. Remember this case? This was kind of early on. This was in April when kind of the crackdowns, I mean, they had started before that, but this is when activist judges started to try to kind of thwart the Trump agenda. And she tried to escort the illegal migrant that was going to be served these papers by ICE, tried to kind of hide him and get him out through I think it was a judge's chamber. Milwaukee County Judge Hannah Dugan was busted in April on felony obstruction and misdemeanor charges after she helped Mexican national Eduardo Flores Ruiz and his lawyer sneak out of a back jury door when ICE agents showed up at the courthouse to detain him. While jurors acquitted Dugan on a misdemeanor concealment count, they found her guilty Thursday of felony obstruction. The jurist defense team said, "While we are disappointed in today's outcome, the failure of the prosecution to secure convictions on both counts demonstrates the opportunity we have to clear Judge Dugan's name and shows she did nothing wrong in this matter." She kind of wanted to be a star when it first happened. That has now backfired. Continuing, their defense says, "We have planned for this potential outcome, and our defense of Judge Dugan is just beginning. The trial required considerable resources to prepare for, and public support for Judge Dugan's defense fund is critical as we prepare for the next phase of this defense." So what that is suggesting, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, could you send us more money? We want to keep this gravy train going. She now faces up to 5 years in prison. A date for her sentencing has not been set. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche cheered the verdict, declaring that nobody, not even judges, are above the law, saying on X Today, a federal jury of her peers found her guilty and sent a clear message. The American people respect law and order. Nobody is above the law. This department will not tolerate obstruction, will enforce federal immigration law, and will hold criminals to account, even those who wear robes. Now, the illegal migrant where this all began, Flores Ruiz, faced Judge Dugan on April 18th on 3 misdemeanor charges after allegedly pummeling a man with more than 30 punches during a March 12th fight. The Mexican national, previously deported from the U.S. in 2013 and free on a signature bond at the time, also allegedly struck a woman who tried to intervene during the altercation. So again, Judge Dugan feeling that this is the person to protect, to save from ICE agents. However, when Dugan learned that ICE agents were in the courthouse looking for him, she left the bench visibly angry to confront the federal agents, because oftentimes you see this scenario, especially with the activist judges, they believe that it's kind of I call it the Barney Fife mentality. They get a little bit of power and they believe they can wield it to the fullest extent. Dugan ordered officers out if they weren't there for court, then sent federal agents away from her courtroom to Chief Judge Carl Ashley's office after seeing Flores Ruiz's immigration warrant. After Dugan went back inside, a courtroom deputy told federal agents he hadn't tipped her off and claimed she was pushing Flores Ruiz's case through. When Flores Ruiz's appearance wrapped up, Dugan was heard saying, "Wait, come with me," before ushering him and his attorney out through the courtroom's jury door to a non-public area of the courthouse. Flores Ruiz made it out of the courthouse but was ultimately apprehended outside during a foot chase. He has since been removed from the United States. The agency wrote in a statement, ICE removed this criminal on November 13th, 2025. So that is a major update. She's looking at a potential of 5 years. And this is, again, a prime example of the activist judges who do believe they're above the law. The law does not apply to them. She kind of liked being the hero status on the far left. Now she faces 5 years in prison for obstruction of justice, as she tried and ultimately failed too. That's got to sting a little bit to kind of thwart Trump's agenda. But again, the defense team looking as if they're asking you for money. Public support is necessary at this time. So if you could please send your checks, cash, or money order. All right. We got so many Trump updates this morning, and I haven't mentioned it. Venezuelan strongman Nicolas Maduro ordered his navy to escort ships carrying petroleum products out of port, a brazen challenge to President Trump's newly declared blockade targeting the country's lifeblood. The Venezuelan Navy, on Tuesday and Wednesday, escorted 3 tankers carrying Venezuelan petroleum, oil-based products to Asia. None of the vessels that left with the Venezuelan Navy were on the U.S. sanctions list, at least for now, but Maduro's move has increased the risk of military confrontation, according to U.S. defense analysts. Until now, the Venezuelan president has avoided responding with force and his calling up of the Navy to assist in bucking Trump's blockade represents a new escalation as Trump aims to drain the dictator's oil revenues with his blockade announcement on Tuesday. Did you see, and I've got an example of this later on in the program, and I don't know, I'm trying to maybe steer away from these, but it's amazing how many people have been labeled MAGA influencers. And the reason I mention that is I know there's always a lot of talk about Tucker Carlson. And I people must watch the show, not my cup of tea, but that's neither here nor there. And did you see that he predicted that Trump was going to declare war during his address to the nation? There's these analysts and these pundits, and it's why I try not to ever make a prediction on this program, because they make these predictions and then they just embarrass themselves and then just come back the next day as if nothing happened and continue on with their predictions and their punditry. Is that a word? I point to this person because this came out. He's no MAGA person. He didn't like Trump, but he labels himself as a conservative. Bill Kristol. We mentioned him yesterday, and he was always the one that kind of took the cake for me. That for years he's been asked to be on various programs as a political pundit, and I don't know if he ever gets one of his predictions right. He was the one that had said, and I wish I could find the website. It's maybe not even there anymore, but they had a list of all of his wrong tweets regarding Trump, basically saying back in Trump's first term, before that, when he was running for election, that Trump would be out before Iowa, that Trump would be out before Christmas, so not even making it to the primary, these type of predictions. But yeah, he keeps going back and making the same kind of predictions. But I just mentioned that because some people are very concerned about where this could lead when it comes to Venezuela. Trump said in his announcement on Truth Social, Venezuela is completely surrounded by the largest armada ever assembled in the history of South America. It will only get bigger, and the shock to them will be like nothing they have ever seen before, until such time as they return to the United States of America all of the oil, land, and other assets that they had previously stole from us. The illegitimate Maduro regime is using oil from those stolen oil fields to finance themselves, drug terrorism, human trafficking, murder, and kidnapping. Now, Maduro's naval orders came after 4 Panama-flagged ships headed for Venezuela turned around on December 11th, just one day after the U.S. military seized an oil tanker headed for the country last week. And we know that Trump's administration has been doing a very important job. Some people want to call it a war crime, but the downing of the drug traffickers, and that is another example where Trump's done a really interesting job, and he's so good at it, of painting kind of Democrats into a corner where they say, no, we need to protect the drug traffickers. So it is getting interesting. I would like to hear your thoughts on it. I just mentioned that quickly because it was kind of a breaking story this morning. When we come back, we're going to talk a little politics and then get into some Trump updates. We've got New York State updates. Yesterday we had a great discussion. Today we've had a great discussion. Let me know your thoughts on the assisted suicide bill that Governor Hochul is now supporting. That was a major story yesterday. We read the quote from Assemblyman Joe Sempolinski, which I thought was really moving. I could read it again if you wanted, but I think we're having a great conversation on it. So let's keep it going and on all the issues of the day. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
This is a Sue the Collector Consumer Alert. Hi, my name is Jared Johnson with SueTheCollector.com. Did you know that repossessions are on the rise in America? If your car, truck, or motorcycle has been repossessed by an agent that broke a lock, assaulted you, or trespassed on your private property, you have rights. Call us for a free case review at 1-877-BAD-REPO. You pay nothing unless we win money for you. Call me now.
We're all across America talking to people about their hearts. How's the heart?
Good.
You sure?
I think so.
How do you know? Let me show you something. Put 2 fingers right on those pads. Look at that. That's your heart.
That is pretty awesome.
With Cardio Mobile, you can take a medical-grade EKG in just 30 seconds from anywhere. Cardio Mobile is proven to detect atrial fibrillation, one of the leading causes of stroke. Get Cardio Mobile for yourself or a loved one this holiday. On sale now for just $69 at Cardio.com or Amazon.
Small businesses are the heart of America. Like you, these entrepreneurs started out with a dream and the drive to build a better life. If you have a small business idea to grow or challenge to face, you don't have to go it alone. Since 1964, SCORE has helped millions of entrepreneurs build their businesses. Today, they are the nation's largest nonprofit source of expert mentoring, resources, and education. Whether you're starting out, building back, or have worked at it for years, SCORE will match you with specialized mentors. Our thousands of volunteers provide the guidance and connections you need for free. Your success is waiting. SCORE is ready to help. Find a mentor today at SCORE.org.
The roof cam getting a little trippy this morning with all that rain. It is coming down. You can probably hear it in the background. So keep that in mind on your way into school or your way into work. It is pouring. Welcome back as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. Let's go to some viewer comments in regards to Greg Biffle, this Viewer writes, the weather guy reported that the cloud ceiling was at 1,200 feet and came down to 400 feet in a matter of minutes as he was landing. And witnesses said the plane was way too low trying to land. Interesting. Thank you very much. Comment from a different viewer. People have such short-term political memories. They made sure that when Obamacare was created, they placed a resolution that said Congress didn't have to be a part of Obamacare. Let that sink in for a minute. All the signs were there from the beginning. What politician doesn't make sure to take advantage of a good thing? Right. Great point. Sorry, I kind of bungled it a little bit there. But yes, if Obamacare was going to be such a savior for so many, why wouldn't Congress be mandated to be on Obamacare? Instead, the opposite, where we were all mandated. If we didn't have insurance, we would have to get on Obamacare, pay a fine. They were exempt. So thank you for reminding us of that. Comment from a different viewer. Just a comment on the letter you read regarding the pain and suffering that person has been through. First, I'm very sorry for her situation and so many in pain. I recall my father, who was a self-employed businessman all of his life, hardworking to support 5 children. And when he retired sick and didn't get to enjoy it for long due to complications of diabetes and congestive heart failure. I remember when he lost his vision. It was his last hope that he would be able to drive again, but he was not a candidate for the surgery at the time. I believe that was his turning point and the last straw, having been independent all of his life. I remember it hurt to hear him say that, and I just sort of made light of it, but I didn't know how frustrated he was. That said, for me, it's a double-edged sword. I would never want to have to make that decision, but I'm grateful I'm not in severe pain at this stage of my life. My fear, though, is that it can be misused if the price is right. I would say there should be a waiting period with solid proof by those closest to the individual. There is a waiting period in there. There are some guardrails, though really not enough, because to your point, and actually kind of to the point of the viewer before with Obamacare, you see how things coming from the government aren't as successful as they think they're going to be. So in this scenario, what concerns a lot of people, it's like, I should have it up here. I should have printed it out. Joe Sempolinski, when he, because many of you, I'm sure, are aware, but he's a father of a daughter with developmental disabilities. And his quote is, I fear that legalized assisted suicide will eventually be abused to harm the disabled. I can see a day when someone will induce, trick, or coerce my daughter into killing herself. Once this option is created, it will be abused. The terminally ill need access to quality hospice and palliative care, but the answer is not suicide. I stand for life. So that is from Joe Sempolinski. This is why it's an interesting topic and not obviously the most pleasant topic. But we've had such, I think, a great conversation around it on this program. Now, Governor Hochul did release that op-ed yesterday or late, it may have been late Wednesday, saying it was the toughest choice she's ever made as governor. I found the op-ed very unwieldy. I tried to read a little bit up to yesterday, but basically all of a sudden she was for individual liberties and smaller government, and insinuating that doctor-assisted suicide was the rights that our founding fathers had hoped for. And I found the way, as normal with Governor Hochul, the way that she presented it, I found it to almost make matters worse. She tries, I know I've said it a million times, but she's Johnny Try Hard. She tries just too hard to, what's the word I want to use without being super insulting? She wants to be at a higher level politically than she is. Again, I think she proves every day why she was picked to be lieutenant governor and never to be governor. You don't pick your lieutenant governor hoping that they'll be your replacement someday. She was never, she was supposed to be kind of the fly on the wall, not really be any kind of harm to Governor Cuomo, but it turns out Cuomo was his own harm. But yeah, Kathy Hochul's op-ed did not ease my worried mind on the assisted suicide bill. But we do have a couple pieces on that we're going to get to in just a little bit. Some more opinion on it. A couple things here about it's coming from an NPR station, so take it with a grain of salt, but the primary that no one in the GOP wants, Stefanik v. Blakeman. No, everybody wants it. It seems nearly universal. I know it's anecdotal, but as you know, I talk to a lot of people, whether here on the air or off the air, about politics on a daily basis. And I have yet to hear one person think, number one, it's a good idea that Blakeman runs. Number two, that they want Blakeman to run. I've never heard anybody have really a nice thing politically to say about Blakeman. I'm not saying as a person. I'm not saying as maybe some of his past positions. Just what he's doing and what Stefanik called this ego trip of running for governor when the polls show he has no chance of beating Stefanik, but we know it'll just be a headache for her, cost a lot of money. Obviously, get bloodied up in a primary, so we'll talk about that later on. I'm going on a little bit of a tangent here, killing some time before the Corning whistle, and there she is. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking. Stay with us.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Hello? Hi. Where are you guys? Thanksgiving dinner's almost on the table. What? No, that can't be right. I just saw them last night. A drunk driver? But no, I just saw them. They're gone? They're gone.
There have always been a few, ready to fight and win. Since 1775, these few have been Marines, and they come from across this land to defend the future of our nation. This year, our Corps celebrates 250 years, and Marines are proud to serve this country, each other, and all that is still to come for America.
Your Big Fox, WYDC TV, Elmira Corning. Your Big Fox, WYDC TV, Elmira Corning. Your Big Fox, WYDC.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. I think you're going to find this interesting. It comes from the New York Times, so just keep that in mind. But after the historic landslide wins of President Trump and Republicans last year, the DNC did what they should do, what any party should do after a loss, which is kind of have an autopsy. Look at what happened, what went wrong. Now it's being reported, I should say, the DNC is scrapping its report on what went wrong in 2024. I think this is a clear sign that they are getting, you could say, overly confident going into the midterms. They don't want to learn the lessons from 2024. That's fine. Ken Martin, who has done a dismal job at the DNC, ordered the autopsy months ago, but is now said to believe that its release would be counterproductive for the party. So there's no sense helping Democrats win elections if you're the chairman of the Democratic National Committee. Ken Martin said on Thursday that he had decided not to publish a report that he ordered months ago into what went wrong with the Democrat Party last year. Party officials have conducted more than 300 interviews with Democrats in all 50 states to create a document that Martin had once pitched as crucial to charting a path forward. Maybe he didn't like what they learned. Martin will instead keep the findings under seal. He believes that looking back so publicly and painfully at the past would prove counterproductive for the party as it tries next year to take back power in Congress. Martin said in a statement, "Here's our North Star. Does this help us win? If the answer is no, it's a distraction from the core mission. So learning from your past mistakes will not help you win," essentially, that's his comment. This is fine with me. I mean, I don't think there's anything that he needed to learn from 2024, right? I mean, President Trump and Republicans won back the House, or won the House and the Senate. The White House, Trump won not only by the Electoral College, But the popular vote, even though the popular vote is not necessary, still worth commenting on. But why let your fellow Democrats know what went wrong? Keep up the good work. Even if it's good politics to stuff the report in a filing cabinet, Democrats may well be avoiding self-examination and a chance for introspection. And I think they have. I think with some of the issues they've taken up, such as we mentioned earlier, the defense of some illegal migrant criminals, drug dealers, these type of things. Simon Bazalian, a Democrat researcher, said it's reflective of a broader problem within the party, which is we are scared of ever making anybody in our coalition upset. Now, that is such a great point, because Ken Martin was the one when they were asked, do you like Zohran Mamdani and these anti-Semitic statements? Do you support anti-Semitic statements and candidates? And he basically said, we welcome everybody in. It's a big tent. Keep in mind, Ken Martin is the one that was actually crying on a conference call with his fellow Democrats because he wasn't getting enough attention. That David Hogg was almost seen, at that time, David Hogg since resigned from his position in the DNC, but he believed that David Hogg was getting too much attention, almost as if he was the chair and he wanted the attention. Ken Martin, again, don't listen to me if you're a Democrat, but Ken Martin, to me, has not been a very successful or strong leader for the Democrats. But going back to that Democratic researcher, said, I understand the incentives involved there, but it also limits us in a lot of ways because it means we can't address difficult questions head on. They don't want to upset their coalition. They don't want to upset. And let's face it, their coalition is made up of a very big sector. The woke culture is a very big coalition in their party, and the woke culture is very sensitive. So Democrats are very sensitive. So if you, and we're seeing this with the DSA as well, Democrat Socialists of America, but it's an overall Democrat problem as well. If you say 99% of the right things, they will destroy you when you say that 1% that they disagree with. So to this strategist point, if they come out and say, oh, we did this wrong because we talked too much about, you name it, talked too much about transgender athletes or something. Well, there's going to be a whole swath of your coalition that's going to say, I'm out of here. And it could only grow the DSA, the Democrat Socialists of America. Dan Wessel, a former communications advisor, said, haven't we rehashed 2024 enough? We just won a bunch of elections this year. There's also a lot of good to be learned from there. Yeah, if you think you learned enough from 2024, that's none of my business. And you won... Well, let's see. They always point to the two states that were already blue, remaining blue. They mentioned some off-year elections. That's fine. If that's what they want to hang their hat on, that's absolutely fine. Don't learn from the lessons of 2024. The party's brand still appears deeply damaged in the eyes of many voters. A national poll from Quinnipiac found that only 18% of voters approved of how Democrats in Congress were doing their job. That is a record low. Now, this is twofold. One, because you have a lot of people, the everyday working American, that does not like the policies of the Democratic Party. You got those. You also have the people in their own party that don't believe they're doing enough. They don't understand that they're not in any type of power. They have no power position. So that's why they're so upset when Chuck Schumer originally voted to keep the government open the first time. So they want them to do more. They want them to be basically activists, not politicians. So that's where another faction of that 18%, the people disagree to get it to 18%. Since the day of his election in February, Martin had promised an audit of the mistakes and a roadmap for the future. He was adamant that it's not be called an autopsy because he said the party was not dead. He preferred the more kind of label after action review. So that's a prime example of a Democrat, right? The language. It's all about we're not dead, so don't call it an autopsy. We call it an after-action review. No matter the title, the report's existence has proved contentious. Those initially briefed on the plan documents over the summer had said it would skirt past this question of whether Joe Biden should have run for re-election, as well as key decisions from the campaign of Kamala Harris, or whether they should have had a primary and not just put Kamala Harris in there. There's been subsequent tussling behind the scenes about both the audit scope and who should take the brunt of blame for Harris's loss. The DNC had warned over the summer that any analysis of its report was premature. Folks might be better off holding their applause or their criticism until we have had a chance to complete our work and people can actually read it, said Paul Riviera, someone that was a part of that group. But now, people will never get a chance. And then, of course, this New York Times will say rising dissatisfaction with Trump. And so really what they're saying is they don't need to learn their lesson. They think they're going to win. They're so confident about the midterms, just like they were so confident that Hillary Clinton was going to win, that they're so confident Harris was going to win, that they don't have to worry about looking at their past mistakes. They say that as long as they can keep running on the affordability message, which is so frustrating after 4 years of telling us everything was affordable, it lied to us. Now everything's about affordability. But again, they are that confident about the midterms, folks. I thought that was really interesting. The DNC scrapping its own report on what went wrong. That after-action review, not an autopsy. Ken Martin saying it's counterproductive. No sense learning their lesson. Okay, we are out of time because I have to double up on breaks because I got on that tangent. In the next hour, we are going to give you some Trump updates. We have a little bit about New York State. We have a lot to cover. Thank you for everyone commenting, everybody keeping the conversation going. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking on WYDC TV Big Fox. Hour number 2, moments away.
All ready for Christmas. Lot looks good. I'm glad we got that done. What the?
They got the lot ready for us. You got the camera?
Camera?
I got a camera. I'm always strapped.
My shoe!
You never know who might roll into town.
Family or friends.
We have deals for everyone. At Blaze Alexander Family Dealerships, where you'll find the lowest price, guaranteed.
It's a real journey since 2014 when I first had my injury. I realized that my home was just not working for me and that it was time to ask for help. Homes for Our Troops is really giving me my life back. The shower allows me to go in and turn around with my chair, pull down storage racks, automated door systems, hours of my morning given back to me. Adaptive sports are a huge part of my life, a huge part of my healing journey as well. Homes for Our Troops helped with making sure that I had a home gym so that I can continue to train. This past year, I was able to host Thanksgiving in my home. And it was the first time I was able to have my whole family in one place and I was able to contribute to the meal. There are a lot more veterans in need, and Homes for Our Troops is going to be there to help them too.
Homes for Our Troops builds and donates specially adapted custom homes nationwide for severely injured post-9/11 veterans and enables them to rebuild their lives. Join our mission at hfotusa.org.
You don't have time to go to the gym? The health club is not an option? Come to Hesselson today and see why swim spas and fitness systems can fit into anyone's yard and budget. 12-foot, 14-foot, 15-foot, 18-foot dual temperature hot tub and swim spas are all on display in Hesselson's indoor and outdoor showroom. Try before you buy. 0% interest-free financing options are available on every Hesselson swim spa. Swim and exercise year-round and start making every day better. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Imagine checking your own heart with medical precision from anywhere. You can with KardioMobile 6L, the FDA-cleared EKG that provides 6 times more heart data than any smartwatch. And it detects 3 of the most common arrhythmias in just 30 seconds, including atrial fibrillation, bradycardia, and tachycardia. Check your heart with the #1 doctor-recommended personal EKG. Give KardioMobile 6L this holiday. On sale now for just $99 at Kardia.com or Amazon.
When a child is fighting a critical illness, one truth touches us all. Every child deserves a childhood. A wish sparks a ripple of hope that transforms communities far and wide. And when we grant wishes together, we create a movement of kindness, strength, and unity. Yay! Become a wish maker today and be part of a journey that truly
It's hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking. And we thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live and, of course, ever proudly from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. Thank you for watching us here during your busy schedule as you prepare for Christmas. I can't thank you enough. Let's go to some viewer comments before we kick off hour number 2. Mark says, I believe assisted suicide is like abortion. I don't believe God put us on this earth to take life away. Thank you, Mark. We've had if you're just joining us, we've had quite a conversation and not even really getting into the nitty gritty yet, but like we did yesterday of Kathy Hochul and her support of the assisted suicide bill. Comment from a different viewer. Frank, what that means from the DNC is that they are going to go back to their cheating, ballot harvesting, and any possible thing they can do to win power again. If you're just joining us, recap. We were talking about the DNC did an autopsy. They wanted to call it an after-action review, but now they're refusing to release it because I think they're so confident that they're going to win the midterms, which is they were confident about Hillary. They laughed at us. So the best thing that ever happened to the Democrat Party was Trump getting the nomination. They were confident about Harris, but if that's the direction they want to go and not learn from their past mistakes, who am I? I'm not Ken Martin. I'm not the chair of the DNC. That viewer continues. They are the ones that created the affordability crisis, and now they're going to be the ones to fix it? Yeah, right. Thank you very much. Yeah, that's what's so frustrating about it. They're running out of affordability. But you got to remember, their affordability message is a little different if you look at it from the aspect of Zohran Mamdani, because that's who they're looking at as kind of their shining light right now. And that's how they want to style their campaigns after. I think, you've heard me say it before, that was the perfect storm for the Democrat Socialists of America to win. I just think there was too many moving pieces. If they want to look to that as some type of bellwether, look at that as some type of plan that they should have to run in the midterms, so be it. But his idea of affordability is to use taxpayers' dollars to give things away. That's not affordability. If you want to actually talk about affordability, we can have that conversation. And some, even in the Republican Party, have suggested that Donald Trump hasn't honed his message 100% in on that yet, on real affordability. And we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But Zohran Mamdani's affordability is just throw money around. And that's, I guess, what the DNC sees as a winning plan coming to the midterms. All right. Ken writes in, I don't think that the radical pundits ever get embarrassed by pushing conspiracy theories or misinformation. I agree with you, Ken. They and a lot of their followers still believe in what they say, even when their predictions don't materialize. Take Tucker and the prediction that Trump was going to announce that we are going to go to war. Tucker and his followers can easily say that Trump had to not make his announcement due to political pressure. That's a good point. Another reason the followers would keep believing is the fact that much of what we hear from one side or the other are lies. We as consumers can't believe most of what we hear and wait until AI gets into full gear. We won't be able to believe most of what we see. I agree. And I've seen a little bit of that already on social media. I don't go on social media, full disclosure. I very rarely go on it, but every once in a while, you got time to kill and you don't know what else to do. Heaven forbid you have a moment just to reflect and sit back. Nope, you got to be doing something. So I checked in, so many people being duped by fake press conferences, and not just from politicians, from sports stars or some radical caught on film man fights bear type thing. Yeah, it's going to get very, very bad. Oh, cool. We've got a Climate Fact Friday Bob comment coming up next. I'm not going to read it right now. I'm going to read it in the next segment. So be prepared for that. I know everybody looks forward to Climate Fact Friday Bob and his message. Bob, I don't know if you tuned in right at 6, but we mentioned you. If you go to the Bills YouTube page, you can watch 10 hours of a tailgating Yule log from Highmark Stadium to get into the Christmas spirit. And I thought I think that's a good idea from the Bills camp. Just kind of a fun little thing to change up your holiday season. I know a lot of various organizations do that. Oh, wow. I just went to go look at the website. I've got a couple more New York State updates. Nothing crazy, but something worth mentioning. Okay. Yeah, I'll tell you about it later. But it's about the primary race in New York. This is interesting. We'll talk about that coming up in just a little bit. Yesterday, Trump reclassified cannabis to a Schedule 3 drug, easing weed restrictions. U.S. President Donald Trump signed an executive order directing federal agencies to reclassify marijuana, loosening long-standing restrictions on that drug and marking the most consequential shift in U.S. cannabis policy in more than half a century. The order, once finalized by the Drug Enforcement Administration, moves cannabis out of Schedule 1 classification, the most restrictive category, which is alongside heroin and LSD, to a Scheduled 3 classification, which encompasses substances with accepted medical use and a lower potential for abuse, such as ketamine and Tylenol with codeine. Trump saying this action has been requested by American patients suffering from extreme pain, incurable diseases, aggressive cancers, seizure disorders, neurological problems, and more, including numerous veterans with service-related injuries and older Americans who live with chronic medical problems that severely degrade their quality of life. Also on Thursday, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, led by Dr. Oz, is expected to launch a pilot program enabling certain Medicare-covered seniors to receive free doctor-recommended CBD products, which must comply with all local and state laws on quality and safety, according to the White House. The products must also come from a legally compliant source and undergo third-party testing for CBD levels and contaminants. Also, you may have missed it, Trump announces the Patriot Games just in time for the 250th anniversary of the United States. President Trump announced a plan for a Patriots game event next year that will ask for 2 top high school athletes from each state, one male, one female, to compete in various sporting events. This is an interesting idea. Make it like American Gladiators. The president announced the Patriot Games event will be the launch of Freedom 250, an organization that will plan and lead efforts to commemorate the nation's 250th anniversary. The Hill noted one of the events that will be featured as part of the festivities will be what Trump called the first ever Patriots game, an unprecedented 4-day athletic event featuring the greatest high school athletes, one young man and one young woman from each state and territory. The game will reportedly take place in autumn of 2026. Other events planned for 2026 include a Great American State Fair that will feature exhibits from all 50 states on the National Mall from June 25th to July 10th. An Independence Day celebration that will include fireworks and a military flyover, and an Ultimate Fighting Championship, a UFC fight that will take place at the White House on June 14th. Trump said in a video announcing the Patriot Games that people will have a good time. Already, we've had big celebrations to commemorate the 250 birthdays of the Army, the Navy, and the United States Marine, but there's much, much more to come. He said before adding that the Games will be an unprecedented 4-day athletic event featuring the greatest high school athletes, one young man and one young woman from each state and territory. But I promise there will be no men playing in women's sports, he added. Of course he did. And yes, to Mark's point at the very beginning of the broadcast, there are a lot of people in a tizzy over this. Who did I see? That some actress, I think it was, that was calling it despicable. But the Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts will now bear the names of the 2 American presidents, both John F. Kennedy and Donald J. Trump, as the Board of Trustees voted unanimously to rename the institution. Sorry, I find this one funny. The Donald J. Trump and the John F. Kennedy Memorial Center for the Performing Arts. The decision, announced on December 18th, marks a historic renaming of the iconic venue. The board's unanimous decision recognizes Chairman Donald J. Trump's role in saving the institution from what Roma Duravi, Vice President of Public Relations, described as financial ruin and physical destruction. President Trump said the institution has been really enhanced and emphasized that his administration had saved the Kennedy Center. White House Press Secretary Karen Leavitt confirmed the news with a post saying, "I have just been informed that the highly respected board of the Kennedy Center, some of the most successful people from all parts of the world, have just voted unanimously to rename the Kennedy Center to the Trump Kennedy Center because of the unbelievable work President Trump has done over the last year in saving the building. Not only from the standpoint of its reconstruction, but also financially and its reputation. Congratulations to President Donald J. Trump, and likewise congratulations to President Kennedy, because this will be a truly great team long into the future. The building will no doubt attain new levels of success and grandeur." The renaming is presented by the board as reflecting unequivocal bipartisan support for America's cultural center. Boy, a lot of people are in a tizzy over this. I wonder, oh, by the way, just if you're curious, the Kennedy Center broke an all-time attendance record for a public event in March of 2025, March of this year, with its Earth to Space, Arts Breaking the Sky fireworks show, which drew over 11,000 attendees. A Kennedy Center representative stated that 76% of those who attended had never visited the venue before. So people are in a tizzy over this. You would think it's the biggest thing to ever occur, but Donald Trump said he was both surprised and honored about the renaming of the venue. Now, I thought he had hinted towards it before, but either way, I was surprised by it. I was honored by it, saying that the board is very distinguished. We saved the building. The building was in such bad shape, both physically, financially, and every other way, and now it's very solid, very strong. Trump teased the forthcoming televising of the Kennedy Center honors on December 23rd. Yeah, we got to remember that. I want to see that. It's going to get very big ratings, and the Kennedy Center is really, really back strong, he said. So as you can imagine, a lot of people not overly happy with the news of the Trump-Kennedy. That's who it was. Okay, I thought it was Maria Shriver. She slammed the decision. The Kennedy Center was named after my uncle, President John F. Kennedy. It was named in his honor. He was a man who was interested in the arts, interested in culture, interested in education, language, history. He brought the arts into the White House, and he and my Aunt Jackie, why does it always cut off there? I don't think it'll show me the rest. Oh, there we go. He and my Aunt Jackie amplified the arts, celebrated the arts, stood up for the arts and artists. It is beyond comprehension, this again, Maria Shriver, that this sitting president has sought to rename this great memorial dedicated to President Kennedy. It is beyond wild that he would think adding his name in front of President Kennedy's name is acceptable. It is not. Next thing, perhaps he will want to rename JFK Airport, rename the Lincoln Memorial, the Trump Lincoln Memorial, the Trump Jefferson Memorial, the Trump Smithsonian. The list goes on. Can we not see what is happening here? Come on, my fellow Americans, wake up. This is not dignified. This is not funny. This is way beneath the stature of the job. It's downright weird. It's obsessive in a weird way. Just when you think someone can't stoop any lower, down they go. Maria Shriver on the renaming of the Kennedy Center. But Trump said he was surprised, honored. Never saw it coming. Your thoughts on that? Let's take a short break. But you were right, Mark. People are in a tizzy. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking. Stay with us.
State is putting nearly $60 million towards improving key roadways across the southern tier.
Many older homes are still at risk for exposing residents to high levels of lead.
The Nani Hood Parent Resource Center once again brought the community together for its annual Halloween parade.
Around the southern tier, Finger Lake stands out for its scenery and wine scene. This year's dry drought brought some positives to the crop. Lee Com Center is looking for fans to show up and show out.
Buy a new 2025 Ram 1500 Crew, just $43,330. You save $10,000.
Or buy a new 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee Limited, just $38,490. You save $10,000.
If you don't see me, I can't save you any money.
It's the Wrap Up the Year sales event going on now at Ferrario in Elmira or at Ferrario.com.
Did you know that children growing up with poor air quality have smaller lungs and higher rates of asthma than children that grow up with good air quality? And unfortunately, poor communities have poor air quality. IQ Air Foundation is working to change this. Today, the IQ Air Foundation provides filtration technology to schools with poor air quality through our Clean Air for Kids program. Our goal is to help over 50,000 school children every year breathe over 90% cleaner air indoors, helping to level the playing field, reduce barriers to learning, reduce sick days, and increase test scores. Mitigating poor air quality is key to environmental justice. Help Clean Air for Kids reach more children at IQAirFoundation.org.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam. Brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back. Broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Market Street and Corning. We've got a lot of comments to read, and we've got a Climate Fact Friday from Bob. First up, this viewer writes, yes, they want to design their campaigns after Mom Donnie. That's the Democrats running in the midterms. Problem is, you run out of other people's money pretty quick. You're exactly right. And that is the affordability message, which is throw money at everything. Taxpayer money. Comment from a different viewer, Mark. Mark writes in, for those people that haven't got a deer yet or filled their tags, New York is letting hunters hunt between Christmas and New Year's, bow and muzzleloader only. Well, thank you, Mark, for giving us that PSA. Comment from a different viewer, I am very bothered by AI and deep fakes and the like. I think it's very dangerous and disturbing to think that it's going to be a convenient way to have our so-called leaders and politicians to use and say, oh, that was AI. It's not the truth. And are we any wiser? How many will be duped? How do you know when something looks so authentic, just like spoofing? I don't blame people, especially some of these press conferences. Right now, I think we're in a place where if something fits your worldview too much, or if something seems maybe too shocking for the other side, it's probably AI. You know, you'll see some athlete saying, boy, my teammate really stunk, that's why we lost. And you go, wait, that probably isn't something they'd say at a press conference. But it is going to get more tricky and more tricky. And you're right. If a politician says something and gets caught on tape, just say, oh, I didn't say it. It's scary. It really is scary, and it's only going to get worse. So I'm in the same camp as you. And I think those that use social media will be duped numerous times. And if they haven't already, in the not too distant future. All right. Climate Fact Friday Bob writes, good morning to all. Well, good morning to you, Climate Fact Friday Bob. It seems that our governor and her band of henchmen have once again succeeded to help destroy another ecosystem with solar panel farms. For Edwards, Washington County, New York, solar project that will completely surround a sensitive species grassland area, sort of putting in solitary confinement. This is the home of snowy owls, short-eared owls, harrier hawks, and other species that are threatened in New York State. The DEC has designated this area to be wildlife sensitive. If you or I would go there and violate any of the restrictions, we could be fined $50,000 and spend time in jail. Yet this company from Canada will be bringing in dump trucks, heavy equipment right next to this and completely surrounding this area. So I guess we are destroying habitat to help save the world with renewable energy. With the increase in solar panel fires, I hope we never see a wildfire in this area. If you want more information on this assault on wildlife, go to the Facebook and search Alexandria Fasulos page, Fasulos. Thank you. Have a great weekend. Stay safe and go Bills. Thank you. Climate Fact Friday, Bob. I appreciate that. That is very disconcerting. It's also interesting to see. I think a car alarm's going off out there. And it's also frustrating because we've seen Governor Hochul signal that, no, we want this all the above approach. We're going to ease back on some of these original goals that we had for renewables and like that. And we know she's just doing it because it's an election year coming up. And we know once the election year is over, if she is successful, it's a big if she's successful, she will go right back and push them all forward. So it is, and we're going to talk about Governor Hochul here in just a little bit. Now, we had mentioned Trump's address to the nation. Now, the Mirror says that MAGA turns on Donald Trump after, quote, pointless address, with even his own supporters disappointed. I know that, well, and Tucker's name's mentioned here. This is an example that we have had now more than once a week where you, if you are a Trump supporter, are turning on Trump. Marjorie Taylor Greene says the GOP is leaving him in droves. The GOP is done with Trump, essentially. I'm paraphrasing what she said. All these people are coming out in the media saying, oh, you no longer support the president. And you thought that that was a pointless address to the nation. Again, it's so discouraging to me that Trump has to give that address to the nation because the media won't fairly cover him. If the media fairly covered him and his economy, you would see that he would not have had to address the nation. The people would understand what he had to say. But because they don't, Trump had they forced his hand, and he had to address the nation to, what's the word I want, kind of filter through the bias. And again, the reason I mentioned this article, and I don't want to read the comments from some of these people, but they give you people that I've never heard of. And maybe I'm just ignorant. Maybe I don't go on enough social media and places like that for these quote unquote influencers. But I don't know the name Majestic Glow. Majestic Glow has 46,000 followers and supposedly is a Trump. Maybe you do. Maybe you're laughing at me right now for my ignorance. As far as I can tell, that's the only... Is that the only person they quote? Well, Tucker Carlson is among a number of vocal Republicans' voices to condemn the idea of going to war. Well, that didn't happen there. Maybe this just got printed. Okay, Matt Walsh, they mentioned, a right-wing political commentator. I've heard the name. I don't know much about him. This was perhaps the most pointless primetime presidential address ever delivered in American history, he said. Then they quote Majestic Glow. And that's and that means all of MAGA is turning. I should have done a little better show prep and read this further. That's the two people that proves to you the MAGA movement has turned on Donald Trump. It's all over. It's all over. The Trump revolution has come to an end because of a national address on the economy. What I can't remember. I should have kept a list of what are some of the other things that he's done that has caused his MAGA loyalists to leave him. It always seems like pretty mundane things, doesn't it? It's never any major issue. It always seems to be, and of course it's just the media pushing this lie and this narrative because that's what they want. It's their dream. It's their wish list to Santa to have Trump supporters leave Trump. But I do think Charles Gasparino has a fair point when it comes to the economy and Trump's address. We can safely say a couple things about the direction of the Trump economy. One, the messaging is horrendous. But two, there are signs that things are turning around thanks to some sensible pro-growth policies that the president's critics ignore, but the American people shouldn't. If you haven't noticed, even in his own disjointed way, the president has a lot on his plate. He is valiantly pushing back against the insanity of the Democratic Party and its insurgent leftist activist wing. We're talking open borders, mindless spending, the woke culture change, the change that includes normalizing the transgender of children, and a lot more that threatens the republic. He's also trying to remake an economy that Biden handed him, one with crippling, elevated prices on goods that have hit average Americans hard. He's doing so with pro-growth solutions, including policies in his big, beautiful bill that, if history is any guide, should bear fruit soon. I know it's easy to mock that piece of legislation because of its Trumpian braggadocio, but there are signs that the economy is adjusting to the good that's about to come. Consider working Americans, the same people crushed by Biden-era inflation, will be reaping the rewards of Trump's new tax deductions for qualified tips, aka no tax on tips. A working-class tax cut if there's ever was one. For businesses, there's an expansion of small business tax deduction. Small businesses account for much of the country's job creation, and this will make it easier. In terms of big businesses, they will soon be expensing and writing off more of their R&D, research and development, the cost of creating new factories and improving equipment. Deregulation of the energy sector is already leading to lower energy policies, and ditching of the federalization of green energy edicts should keep prices lower, even in states run by left-wing public officials controlled by the green lobby, where the cost of keeping your lights on and heating during the winter, think New York, remain too high. The problem Trump faces is that these policies will take time to filter through the economy. Take Thursday's inflation numbers. They look good, down to 2.7% from 3% a year ago. They seem to be inching toward the Fed's so far elusive 2% target, thus confirming that the Trump economic policies are working to reverse the mess that Harris and her, well, he suggests some mental health issues. Joe Biden left him. But I can't find a single Wall Street numbers cruncher who is confident in the latest data, since it was amassed incompletely after the government shutdown. Plus, 2.7% inflation is still too high for most working people, given the already elevated Biden-level prices. Earlier in the week, we received some more. The November unemployment rate ticked up a bit to 4.6%, sending Trump's critics into a feeding frenzy of backslapping glee that his presidency was failing, just at the right time with the midterms approaching. Look deeper and you see that, yes, the rate ticked up a bit, but it remains historically solid, materially and statistically unchanged during those 4 years. Trying to unravel all this into a positive message isn't easy to begin with, but sometimes the president and his advisors make it worse. They spin the very real affordability crisis as a con job. It isn't. And it has been stoked, at least in small part, by the tariffs that he's been busy trying to reverse or lessen by handing out checks to injured groups like farmers. When Trump recently posted on social media that the country is entering a golden age, he undercut his message in the same breath with the insensitive comments about Rob Reiner. When I said I agree with some of there's small minutia here that I agree with. I just want to clarify that. But there are some points that I think are worth taking away about the messaging. Better begin explaining the good that's coming on top of an economy, which, as I last checked, is still growing despite the affordability crisis. It isn't an A+++ economy, as Trump claims, but with some help from Trump's pro-growth policies, we might really be heading in the right direction, and if we're lucky, a golden age to come. Now we're going to talk. Oh wow, I am running late. We're going to talk more about the address to the nation. What some Democrats have to say, because I want to get your blood boiling even more. And then we're going to talk about New York issues when we return. So stay with us. Man, there's so much to cover. I'm sorry I'm running so late. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this.
Give kids time. Just 5 minutes a day. Ask them how they're feeling. And listen.
We're traveling all across America, talking to people about their hearts. How's the heart?
Good.
You sure?
I think so.
How do you know? Let me show you something. Put 2 fingers right on those pads. Look at that. That's your heart.
That is pretty awesome.
With Cardio Mobile, you can take a medical-grade EKG in just 30 seconds from anywhere. Cardio Mobile is proven to detect atrial fibrillation, one of the leading causes of stroke. Get Cardio Mobile for yourself or a loved one this holiday. On sale now for just $69 at Cardio.com or Amazon.
Having a safe home is essential to many aspects of our lives. From a sense of community and safety, to physical and mental health, to economic security and independence. Most homes in our communities are not accessible and are not designed to accommodate the changes that come with age, including the risk of falling. The Older Adults Home Modification Program helps reduce the risk of falls, improves safety, and increases accessibility and independence. Through this program, Rebuilding Together works with older adults to provide no-cost preventative home repairs so our neighbors can safely age in place in the homes and communities they love. To learn more, visit rebuildingtogether.org/safeathome.
Your Big Fox, WYDC TV, Elmira Corning. You're watching Big Fox, WYDC.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Just a couple comments before we move along here. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. Now that MAGA has left Trump, he can only be our president for 3 more years. It's too bad that they didn't stay loyal. He could only be president for 3 more years. And I know you're kind of having fun with it. To suggest that speech, MAGA was turning on it, it's so laughable. It's just an update that we have every week. A comment from Mark. He said, I saw a clip on car manufacturers in trouble or not doing well. There were 8, and only one of them was a U.S. manufacturer. So this proves Trump's Made in America is working. People need to give his policies a chance. Thank you very much. Whoopi Goldberg referenced Donald Trump in his speech. If you recall, he's going to give $1,776 to active military for kind of a Christmas bonus. Did you see why he's doing it, according to Whoopi Goldberg? Let's see if they get the check. I want to see if they get it first, Goldberg said. Then, Elisa Farrah Griffin said, listen, coming off the government shutdown and the delay that they all had, they got back pay, but people need help. But all Americans need help right now, and just a handout isn't the answer. Smart policies are the answer. Wow, what a difference less than 1 year makes. But Goldberg interjected, and what he's doing now is he's thinking, if I make sure the soldiers have what they need, they'll back me and what I want. So Whoopi Goldberg pushing a conspiracy that with this $1,776, soldiers will back Trump in whatever nefarious thing he wants. Is it to shut down the midterm? Remember they pushed that conspiracy theory? What is it? So yeah, he's buying all soldiers so that they'll do what he wants with a $1,776 check. And then Alyssa Farrah Griffin almost makes it sound like, well, they're flush with money. They don't need it. Coming off that back pay from the government shutdown. That's what she thinks about our soldiers. A lot to dissect there. On CNN's The Lead, medical analyst Jonathan Reiner said that the manic cadence of Trump's speech raises, you guessed it, medical concerns. And guess who was hosting? Jake Tapper. Of course he was. If you recall Jake Tapper saying, well, we didn't really cover Biden enough, so now we're making sure to cover Trump's health. First of all, they didn't cover it at all, but Trump's health all the time. Reiner said, well, it wasn't the content. I thought the content was just standard fare that we've become accustomed to. But it was the way it was delivered. It was delivered with a manic cadence, almost a frantic cadence. It was as if you felt like you were listening to a podcast at 2 times. And that kind of manic delivery was very, very disturbing, very pressurized speech. And as the president went on, his cadence of his remarks became quicker. And we've never seen the president like that. He seemed almost frantic. 2 frantics there. Let's see if we can hear it again. And it was disturbing to watch. It was disturbing because he's the commander-in-chief. He's not just the head of the government. He's the commander-in-chief of the greatest armed forces the world has ever seen. And it was disturbing to see him with such an almost uncontrolled cadence. Take that in for a moment, that now, after 4 years, they realize the power of the presidency. That he was disturbed to see the president give a thorough speech on the economy. I don't recall hearing, and maybe you could correct me if I'm wrong, I don't recall hearing Mr. Rayner be disturbed at Biden's mental decline or the numerous videos that they try to call deep fakes that went out of him getting lost at these big gatherings of world leaders, some of his losing his thought process right in the middle of sentences. We've seen thousands of them. Never hear that they were disturbed over the lack of a full sentence. But now, because Trump in his mind spoke a little bit faster, trying to get everything in the address to the nation, it's now frantic, it's manic, and it's disturbing. He's the commander-in-chief of the greatest armed forces the world has ever seen, and it was disturbing to see him with such an almost uncontrolled cadence. You know, the president of the United States should be well, but there have been a lot of health issues. You know, he has the chronic bruise. He has swollen ankles. He's had these mysterious scans. We mentioned the daytime. I don't know what that is. I think there's a typo in this. And then last night's speech. So I think all that raises concerns, you know, realistic concerns about the health of the presidency. Everything he described there has been accounted for, and the speech in his mind, not 4 years of Biden, never once did this come up. But remember the hypocrisy in the media, because Jake Tapper said, well, we didn't cover it under Biden. They even wrote a book about how they didn't cover it. We didn't cover it under Biden, so we're going to make up for that by covering Donald Trump tenfold, even more. But it's fair. It has nothing to do with Democrat or Republican. It just happens to be they learned their lesson. They learned their lesson. So that speech, I don't know which one's crazier, what Whoopi Goldberg said or what Dr. Rayner said. And finally, on this, and then we got to move on. Democrat Representative Goldman from New York said that voters prefer the Republican Party on the economy because they don't understand Democrats who keep saying they cannot do it alone. So the voters aren't smart enough, according to Mr. Goldman, Representative Goldman. The voters are not smart enough to understand how good the Democrats' economic plans are. Well, it tells me that people are frustrated with what has gone on in Washington preceding this year, and I agree with them. I think it is dysfunctional. I think the Republican majority in the House has completely created the notion of not only oversight and accountability, but bipartisanship. And Democrats are ready, eager, and willing to work with Republicans to improve the lives of the American people. But what people must understand is that Democrats cannot do it alone. You, the ignorant voter out there, you don't understand. Democrats can't do it alone. It is ironic when you think about it, though, because their own party doesn't seem to understand that. The Democrats' own party are upset with them because they're not doing enough, not realizing that they have no real power in Washington, D.C. Republicans can, and they have. And they've cut Medicare, and we're not going to go through all this. But voters prefer the GOP on the economy because they don't understand Democrats cannot do it alone. There you go. All right, when we come back, we're going to talk about New York State. A couple things here about assisted suicide. And then we're going to talk about some weird story that just came out early this morning, or late last night, I should say, about the Republican primary for governor. Nothing too breaking, but just something to dissect when we return. So stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
More cars, lower prices. Simmons Rockwell. Make car buying simple when you drive your deal at a Simmons Rockwell location near you, where you'll always find more cars at lower prices.
Hello? Hi. Where are you guys? Thanksgiving dinner's almost on the table. What? No, that can't be right. I just saw them last night. A drunk driver? But no, I just saw them. They're gone? They're gone.
After our accident, people told me I needed to slow down. I told them, I don't know how. I'm not only doing the things I used to do, I'm experiencing things I've only dreamed of. I have my freedom back. For the first time in a while, I can see all the colors in my life. So while some days might be harder than others, I know a place I can go where I can feel strong and supported.
Because with the help of my VA care team, I'm reaching new heights.
Take your healthcare career to new heights. Learn more at vacareers.va.gov/PSA.
Your one Big Fox, WYDC TV, Elmira Corning. Your one Big Fox, WYDC TV, Elmira Corning. Your one Big Fox, WYDC.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio on Marcus Street in Corning. So we were talking throughout this morning and through yesterday's broadcast about Kathy Hochul. And we've had difference of opinion on this with many people. I really appreciate that. About her supporting the assisted suicide bill. And then this came across my desk, and it wasn't from a New York State type website. It's actually from Drudge Report. According to the Telegraph out of the United Kingdom, Canada couldn't treat a sick woman, so it offered her assisted suicide. Now, we talked about this also in Canada when it comes to cost. They'll basically say, well, it's a lot cheaper to take these pills. Van Alstyne, who lives in Saskatchewan, was diagnosed with a rare form of parathyroid disease 8 years ago. She has dealt with many health-related problems, including abdominal pain and extreme bone pain and fractures. It's been horrific, she said. Every day I get up and I'm sick to my stomach and I throw up. And then it takes me hours to cool off. I overheat. We have to turn the temperature down to 14 degrees when I get up in the morning. Her condition is treatable, said to involve complex surgery to remove her remaining parathyroid gland, but no doctors in Saskatchewan are able to perform it. Her case could have been moved to a surgeon in a different Canadian province, but she needed to get a referral, and none of them are reportedly taking new patients. This is where the story takes a truly sinister turn. Van Alstyne sought approval for medical assistance in dying. Worse, she was actually approved for medically assisted suicide. Her husband said that she didn't want to die. She's expressed that, but she understood her position after watching her suffer for this length of time. He understood it. Perhaps aware of how horrific this would look, a woman who says she cannot receive the treatment she requires instead of being approved for assisted suicide, the MAID, the medical aid, whatever that stands for, approval has since hit a roadblock. So basically, they realized how bad the PR is. We can't give you a referral to get the surgery you need. We can't get you the help that you need, but we can give you suicide. So the PR looks so bad that Van Alstyne now appears to have help. Glenn Beck, of all people, if you remember him, caught wind of the situation, offered to pay for her surgery. If there's any surgeon in America who can do this, I'll pay for this patient to come down here for treatment. This is the reality of compassionate, progressive healthcare. Canada must end this insanity, and Americans can never let it spread here. And it's too late. But that is what we're concerned about, because remember, the government always, the worst parts of a plan by government always grow. So yes, she put in some guardrails, but they're not enough. And we know that if you look at what Canada did with this, how it has become misused to a sinister way. As a matter of fact, Libby Emmons writes, Kathy Hochul is making a horrifying decision for New Yorkers. She's going to sign an assisted suicide bill into law because apparently life in the Empire State has absolutely no meaning. Sure, she said there's guardrails in place, but the medical aid in dying law, known as MAID, just like the Canadian version, will result in New Yorkers being killed by doctors. We really should not be taking guidance on this issue from our failed neighbors to the north. It's called physician-assisted suicide, but in reality, it tells doctors to betray their very Hippocratic oath that is the foundation of Western medicine. Killing patients, even if they are terminally ill, even if they say they would rather die, is the definition of, quote, doing harm. This leftist, life-hating law would start out allowing adults with only 6 months to live the option of shuffling off this mortal coil even faster. Just as with lethal injection, the ultimate punishment for criminals who have been convicted of the most heinous crime society can imagine, those who choose untimely death would be given a fatal mix of drugs to stop their heart. Funny how the worst thing we can do to a person and what Hochul would argue is the best thing we can do for a person are literally the same thing. That is a very solid point. Funny how the worst thing we can do to a person when they did a heinous crime, I don't know what kind of words I were combining there, crime with a lethal injection is the worst thing we can do. It also happens to be the best thing we can do in Governor Hochul's eyes. Hochul says there will be a waiting period of 5 days before a suicide seeker gets the golden hypodermic to end all the pain. They'll give them just enough time to put together a lavish suicide party so they can say goodbye to all their friends and family. The patient will have to put out a TikTok, make an audio or video recording declaring that they really are just done with it all. While they wait to die, they'll get endless dopamine hits from comments and pings and reposts on their death videos. They'll also get a mental health evaluation. But anyone who's been paying attention knows that our mental health professionals are not exactly living up to high standards of excellence. Those who stand to benefit financially from the death of a patient wouldn't be allowed to hear witness to the MAID request, but of course that doesn't mean anything at all when coercion is at play. Hochul claims this is compassionate. She says her mother died of terminal illness and she didn't like not being able to end her mom's suffering. But a life without suffering is not a life. Only through suffering do we learn and grow. We are not pampered pets, but human beings. If we want to end suffering entirely, we should just stop anyone from being born. Of course, Democrats are into that too. They seem to have a fetish for death. How many more ways could Democrats enable the downfall of civilization and the eradication of humanity? The United States is already committing a genocide against unborn Americans, with nearly 1 million murders per year. Democratic lawmakers encourage teens. Well, she gets a little bit into the weeds here. And now we're supposed to believe that allowing the government to kill Americans upon request is compassion. In Canada, government-assisted suicide is a leading cause of death. The government has even put out coloring books to explain it to kids. In the UK, a member of the House of Lords said pregnant women should get assisted suicide if they want it, putting a whole new spin on the concept of eating for two. In nations that are cool with MAID, the door for assisted suicide has been open to the mentally ill and even to children. So don't think Hochul won't stop with the terminally ill. For shame. Americans' lives are worth living, all the way to the very end. That's Libby Emmons. We've been giving you all perspectives. All right, when we come back, we're going to tell you about the governor's race, something really interesting to come out here earlier this morning. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Help the Steuben Senior Services Fund continue its mission. Donate now.
But I do fine right here in my house, and I want to be here as long as I can be. And I feel comfortable knowing that if something happened to me, someone would know because of the cameras that are installed in various spots in my home. That has been a wonderful gift to me to be able to have that security and that support from Full Circle America, and that's what it's all about.
Tide isn't just a gentle ebb and flow. It's a mighty force of change. Just like the tide shapes our shorelines, we can shape our planet's future and protect the world's oceans from its biggest threats. Help us turn the tide. Join Oceania's wave of ocean advocates who are making a difference in the world.
You're Big Fox, WYDC TV, Elmira Corning. You're watching Big Fox, WYDC TV, Elmira Corning. You're Big Fox, WYDC.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Rick writes in this morning. Good morning, Frank. Good morning, Rick. Donald, inflation came down to 2.7%. Now if gas, electricity, groceries, and prices overall go down some, all 2.7 means is prices increase slower. Those White House plaques are sick. What is wrong with this guy? Well, it'll give the maintenance department something to do on January 20th, 2029. Hey, where's the Epstein report? Probably worked 24/7 redacting the Donald stuff. Orders from the top. Again, why wasn't this released? Why was this not released under Biden? This one just blows my mind that everybody thinks there's some type of conspiracy that Donald was going to redact this stuff. If there was negative stuff on there for Donald Trump, you don't think they would have released it? Anyway, back to my comment on good job on reducing drug costs yesterday. He did. That's awesome, but not 400 to 600% mathematically. The most you can reduce costs is 100%, then the drug is free. Anything above 100%, like Trump claims, is money in your pocket. I'll take an order of that 600% stuff, make that 2 orders. Trump eases restrictions on marijuana. Guess that will be a couple extra trays of chocolate chip cookies sent to the Oval Office every day. Wow, man. It's amazing what you can get your name on when you walk into the place. Tell them you're the boss now, fire the board of directors, and assign your own board. Trump needs help. And with that, have a cookie or two. Help Donald find a place to get some help. Thank you, Rick. Keep those comments coming in because we only have a couple minutes left of the program. But I have to mention this. I don't understand this, and maybe you can explain it to me. Bruce Blakeman is running for governor. Now, we're hoping that after the convention that may not be the case, but it looks like he's all in. But his first big television ad campaign is slated to air in Florida. Blakeman, the Republican Nassau County executive, shelled out close to $25,000 on Thursday to reserve airtime on Fox News in West Palm Beach between Christmas Eve and the New Year. In a statement, his campaign said the spending was aimed at New Yorkers who had left for Florida in recent years, driven out by high taxes, rising crime, and chaos. There's something more there. So you're reaching out, what you think because of your campaign? Maybe that is the ego of this guy. That your campaign is going to inspire them so much they're going to move back to New York? Is this why? This is the same person, mind you, that told the people of Nassau County, trust me to be your executive. Trust me for another term as your executive. I will do the best job. And they said, okay, we're putting your faith by voting for you. The most important thing you can do, voting for somebody. We're giving you the vote. We're going to give you financial support. We're going to knock on doors and do everything for you. Then he gets that job and says, never mind, I want to be governor. Shows you a little bit of his mindset. And now I guess his ego, according to his campaign, is that he is putting out ads running for governor of New York in Florida because he wants to reach New Yorkers who had left for Florida in recent years, driven out by high taxes, rising crime, and chaos. So does he really think he and his magnificent campaign is going to bring them back? Oh, I know we sold our house, Marge, but now we've got to pack up and move back and find a new house because of this Blakeman guy. But most people think it has a different reason behind it. That may be what his campaign said. President Trump, who spends the holidays at Mar-a-Lago at his beachfront club, may see the ad. The 30-second ad includes photographs of the two men together and argues that Mr. Blakeman's electoral success in a suburban swing county makes him, not Stefanik, the strongest Republican candidate. So essentially, he's spending $25,000 hoping that Trump sees an ad and that Trump will endorse him. This guy is... A narrator in the ad said on election night, when so many New York Republicans lost, Bruce Blakeman won a stunning landslide victory. He has a record of cutting taxes, expanding the local police force, and saying men have no place in girls' bathrooms. Like President Trump, Blakeman is a strong executive who can get things done. The ad is also slated to run on Fox News and Newsmax stations back home across New York this week. In total, Blakeman is on track to spend a little over $200,000 in the ads, so you may have a potential of seeing it. So either he's trying to convince people from Florida to move back here because of his amazing campaign, or he just kind of pathetically wants to hope that Trump sees it, so maybe Trump will endorse him or support him. That's, well, then NPR says it's the primary race for governor that New York's GOP doesn't want. Ed Cox, who is in his second stint as a state GOP chair, said Stefanik did all the work, needed to win over party leaders, including himself. But then Bruce Blakeman entered the race, and it was unwelcome. Cox said he is respected within the party, but it is recognized that he is not the candidate this time around, and we cannot afford a primary. He wanted to talk to people in the party, and that's his perfect right to do it. But there comes a time when the reality of the situation will become absolutely clear to him as he looks around, talks to people. I think at that point he will not be going forward. There's a structural reason for that prognosis. To earn a spot in the June primary ballot, a candidate needs to win at least 25% of the weighted vote of the state committee and its February convention, or submit nominating petitions. Stefanik has rolled out endorsements from party leaders representing more than 75% of that weighted vote. Blakeman says that doesn't matter. And then he says he won. And yeah, you won a race and then you dropped out. Now, I mean, you didn't drop out. You get to keep the job. Let me say that differently. He wins the executive race, and then he tells his voters, no, I want to be governor now, but if he loses, which he will, he'll come right back and have that executive. Boy, that's talk about have your cake and eat it too. Anyway, I don't want to go through any more of this. We got to take a break and wrap up today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Stay with us. Get your last second comments in.
Your tap water is delicious. I know, right? It's this Culligan Smart drinking water system. What do you think is going on in there?
I'm smelling a touch of chlorine.
Yeah, I'm detecting some PFAS.
I'm also getting notes of lead.
Perfection.
Sending it up.
Here we go.
Certified to reduce more than 70 contaminants. It's like having your own team of water experts. See the smart difference at Culligan.com.
When it comes to cleaning your house or business, Magic Rags Cleaning Service has you covered from ceiling to floor. With powerful steam cleaning and attention to detail, we have you covered for moving out cleans, move-in cleans, Airbnbs, or just keeping everything neat and tidy. We go above and beyond in our residential and commercial cleaning, and our professional crew makes sure that your house or business is always ready for company. Call our number or schedule an appointment on Yelp or Facebook today.
Imagine checking your own heart with medical precision from anywhere. You can with KardioMobile 6L, the FDA-cleared EKG that provides 6 times more heart data than any smartwatch. And it detects 3 of the most common arrhythmias in just 30 seconds, including atrial fibrillation, bradycardia, and tachycardia. Check your heart with the #1 doctor-recommended personal EKG. Give KardioMobile 6L this holiday. On sale now for just $99 at
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio, getting ready to wrap up today's edition. A couple comments from viewers. Mark writes in, Bruce Blakeman won't make it the governor. Have a great weekend. Thank you, Mark. You have a great weekend as well. Ken writes in, that's an easy question to answer. Blakeman ran and won the executive position and wants to leave for New York governor. If he wins New York governor, he wants to leave it for a position somewhere with better weather. That could be the case. What? I don't even want to talk anymore about it. Immigrants and activists are urging Hochul to pass New York for All Act, which bars government cooperation with ICE. I don't see her fighting back. I can see her doing this. It's a protest. It says dozens. But what's dozens? Boy, they give a lot of news coverage to weird issues. There is and you can find it in Empire Report, a pretty fascinating piece. How the phone ban saved high school since the bell-to-bell device lockup. Teens have rediscovered the simple pleasure of conversations and poker. I'm sorry, the desktop played. Okay, thank you for that. Let me read those comments again. The music kept playing. Appreciate that. All right, so let me read the viewer comments. Mark wrote, Bruce Blakeman won't make it to governor. Have a great weekend. Thank you, Mark. And Ken writes in, that's an easy question to answer. Blakeman ran and won the executive position and wants to leave for New York governor. If he wins New York governor, he wants to leave it for a position somewhere with better weather. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Comment from a viewer. Morning, Frank. I'd like to see a federal audit of New York State. There's suspicion that all blue states were running the frauds, doling tax dollars to illegal immigrants. Stop the madness. Thank you for that. Thank you for those who told me the music was running over. I don't know why that setting changes just occasionally. I had mentioned immigrants and activists are urging Hochul to pass the New York for All Act, which bars government cooperation with ICE. There you are. Also, I had mentioned there is a piece at the Empire Report called How the Phone Ban Saved High School Since the Bell-to-Bell Device Lockup. Teens have rediscovered the simple pleasures of conversation and poker. And finally, top mom Donnie appointee has dramatically quit after her past, you guessed it, anti-Semitic posts resurface. Judge those by who you're hanging out with, right? It'll be interesting how many times that's someone's hand is forced in that way in Mom Donnie's group. That does it for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Thank you for the great conversations. Thank you for all the comments and the texts and the waves. I really do appreciate it. I think we had a really good time this morning. And I hope that you'll join us every weekday morning starting at 6 a.m. for Frankly Speaking, only on WYDC TV, Big Fox. We will see you tomorrow morning, or Monday morning, bright and early. Have a great weekend.
This is Jim from Famous Brands. We are ready for fall and loaded with all of your favorite brands. Great new deals are arriving every week. We have the largest selection of clothing and footwear in the Finger Lakes, all at below retail prices. Famous Brands, downtown Watkins Glen, where you're always looking good for less.
More cars, lower prices. Simmons Rockwell. Make car buying simple when you drive your deal at a Simmons Rockwell location near you, where you'll always find more cars at lower prices.
Hi, this is Till, owner of Hesselsen's in Elmira Heights. At Hesselsen's, we care about your well-being and overall health, whether it's relieving stress, muscle recovery, increasing circulation, or just revitalizing the body. Hesselsen's now has 2 complete line of infrared and traditional rock saunas in our new and expanded showroom. Come in today and see why owning a sauna is a start of your new healthy lifestyle. Hesselsen's is still locally and family owned and operated in Elmira Heights. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselsen's.